Welcome to the Sportscast from the Queen City. I am your host, Steven,
And I am Zach.
and we're here to talk about sports, obviously. Um, actually, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the Bengals and Chiefs game, which was a very fun matchup. I thoroughly enjoyed the entertainment as a non-Bengals fan.
Yeah, I would definitely say the Bengals showed that they're back a little bit. They recovered from that struggle week one. Joe Burrow looked a lot more comfortable, I think. It didn't look like he was trying to force anything. We had guys pulling their weight, doing what they had to do. But it is a Chiefs game against the Bengals, and they are bitter rivals at this point, so it's going to be a tough grind game.
It is tough going down 0-2, especially when you kind of need to start fast, especially when this was kind of the year where you were supposed to start fast with a full training camp of Joe Burrow. Obviously, that was impeded by T. Higgins' injury in the last week and Jamar Chase's contract, which seems to be not too big of a deal, but it seems to be affecting them at least somewhat. I know that Peyton Manning would totally yell at Jamar Chase if he had missed a catch on Monday Night Football, which is coming up next week. But I really wanted to talk about that insane interception by Cam Taylor-Britt. Um,
That would be my vote if we had a catch of the year. I don't know if much else is going to top it. It
it's
was a
it's
great play and a great catch.
it's definitely up there. It's not the craziest catch I saw this year, but it was awesome. I was like, there's no way he should have caught that at all. It reminds me of just like the Justin Jefferson catch last year in Buffalo. Literally two fingers on it. Should have never caught it. Came down with it. Amazing play by Cam Taylor-Britt. Even though I wasn't sure about him going into this year, even though he's a tall, lengthy defender, I wasn't sure if like how he was going to adjust to his new role.
Being cornerback one, yeah, I would agree. Um, I mean, I would say the one positive is having Mike Hilton on the squad. I think Mike Hilton is great veteran leadership for our corners. One guy I really want to succeed, but is struggling a little bit right now is Dax Hill. And I know he's playing out of position from what he normally played, which was safety in college. But I really want him to succeed, and he's just been struggling the past couple games. I don't know if that's an issue of him just struggling at the position or if this is a matter of just the loose defensive scheme not being a good fit for him.
I think it's more or less him still learning how to play the cornerback position full time at an NFL level. It's kind of difficult. Not every player might have the capabilities of doing that, but I think that he has the capabilities. He's a good enough athlete to do it. I do want to talk about the Commanders Monday Night Football game, which is a double header. Not my favorite type of Monday Night Football type of thing of the double header. Usually is really annoying because they usually like to showcase the other game as well, which seems to be what they're doing this week because of the Bengals and Commanders,
Yep,
being the
and
Monday Night Football game.
the other game is Jacksonville and Buffalo, so they're
The,
putting Buffalo against the Bengals as far as I guess viewership. So it's
uh,
kind of hard.
that's what the NFL views as the Monday Night Football game. It's going to get, I already know that in the middle of a really pivotal moment, they're going to show the Bills Jacksonville game, and it's gonna piss off Bengals fans that are that are at home.
Yes.
It gets really annoying. What do you think is going to happen in that game? Do you th expect they bounce back? Do you expect the win? Do you expect what do you expect out of T. Higgins coming back for that game? Especially what seems to be a blackout for the Bengals. Blackout game for
Yes.
the Bengals.
Um, I think bringing T Higgins coming back, excuse me. I think that's going to add a lot of versatility to the offense. Having Jamar and T back together is going to force a lot of teams, or the Commanders on Monday, more specifically, to figure out who they want to double team. And if they want to double team both, then we have Andre Yoshivas, who has absolutely blown me away this season. He performed really well last season, being our rotational guy going in when we needed him and coming in big. But this season, he's taken a whole nother step, being the third receiver. And I mean, up until this point, before T coming back, he was number two. And in that Chiefs game, he had the two offensive touchdowns that we had that game. So, like,
I
he's
would
blown me
say
away. So,
I would say he's kind of filling the Tyler Boyd role that
yes.
this year. More of a
Yeah.
slot receiver, but forced to play outside, totally out of position. Um,
But he makes it work. That's what's I'm so impressed about.
this is a game I expect the Bengals to win, especially since the Commanders only beat the Giants last week with no, 7 field goals. They won with only field goals. Did not score a single touchdown,
I will
which
say the injury status and everything has come out for the Bengals, and Chris Jenkins, the D tackle we drafted, is questionable, so we could see him if he's healthy. We could see him for the first time this season. Sheldon Rankins is ruled out, as well as Tanner Hudson. BJ Hill is doubtful, and Von Bell is questionable. So I think what we could see is if Von Bell starts, we could see him rotating out with Jordan Battle every now and then. So Jordan Battle, who I'm very impressed with, I'm really high on him for our team. And I mean, with the injury that we've had at D tackle, just having someone like Chris Jenkins that could possibly come back would be big. We did sign Lawrence Guy, who is a vet of a
better.
long tenure. Um, and he's won Super Bowls with the Patriots. So I'm all for it. Lawrence Guy is someone that I do remember during those Patriots Super Bowls that made very key plays at times for the defense. So I'm excited to see what he can do, see if he can live up to what all the Bengals fans are hoping he can be for us.
I'm pretty concerned about the Von Bell injury report with him being questionable with his back. I do think that if he's not back there, the defense definitely suffers quite a bit
I can
without
agree with
his
that.
leadership.
I can agree with that. But I do think with Jordan Battle, he did get some reps last season with Von Bell not there. So I feel a little more at ease than I would if Jordan Battle was just a rookie and he was forced into starting because of the injury. But since Jordan Battle does have a year under his belt with Anarumo, I am a little bit more at ease. And I know with Von Bell on the sideline, he's going to be doing nothing but helping the two safeties out as much as he can. And that's where I think Mike Hilton is a big veteran leadership guy for this defense because he can help. He may not be able to coach the safeties up or anything like that, but he can help kind of bring nerves and bring calmness to that secondary. And, you know, if they're feeling any kind of overwhelmingness, then I believe Mike Hilton would be the guy to kind of keep them calm and composed.
That's fair. I do I remember seeing that Jamar Chase's contract is being pushed into the off season. What do you think about that? What do you think of how much money that could potentially cost the Bengals long term?
So I understand Bengals fans being upset about it, but in the long term, the thing that the Bengals fans, us as Bengals fans, have to remember is the Bengals don't do in season contracts. They have just never done it. The only player to ever get an in season contract is Andrew Whitworth, and it was a 1 year extension deal. He is the only Bengal that has ever gotten an extension in the season. I know we all want Jamar Chase to get his contract and get paid because he deserves it. Absolutely. But it's a matter of I'm trusting Katie Blackburn and Duke Tobin and everything. I'm trusting in what they're doing. They obviously have to have a plan. Do I like the way that they approach Jamar with an injury clause? Absolutely not. I don't agree with that at all. That was the red flag that broke Jamar back essentially. He wasn't going for an injury clause, and I don't blame him. That's why we saw he took out a $50 million insurance on any injury he got this year. I
Yeah,
just I
it's just it's
it's
very
something that the
cheap.
organization is always going to do is give a contract at the end of a season. They're not going to do it in the season. So it's one of those like if this is truly frustrating Jamar, he's got to take a step back, take a breath and kind of just play the year out like he can, like he's a top 5 receiver, top 10 in the league. Just play like you always have, and you'll get the contract. I know it's easier said than done coming from a fan, not a player, but we just got to trust Katie Blackburn and Duke Tobin at this point. Those are the two guys. Those are the two people that are ultimately working behind the scenes more than Mike Brown is.
Yeah, I just don't like how cheap it looks to Bengals. Make the Bengals look, especially since it's going to cost them more money the longer you wait. And I really thought that getting that contract done as soon as possible. I know it's gonna. I know that they don't have to start the payments of that new contract. They just have to wait a little bit longer, and that contract doesn't kick in just a year later. But I would rather pay someone at the current rate of this year than wait and then someone else get paid a whole lot of money and Jamar Chase looks at them and say, I'm the top one. I mean, I'm the top three receiver, top five receiver, whatever, whatever, how how highly ranked you have him as a receiver. Um, he's gonna look at that and say, expect a X amount of dollars, and that could be maybe even too expensive, especially
I do
long term.
agree. I do agree. It's like a Trevor Lawrence situation where he could be, Jamar Chase proved himself the season that the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, played well the year after that, and so on and so forth. But then, like someone like the Trevor Lawrence comes around for that contract, and now it's like that receiver that isn't on the caliber of Jamar Chase that hasn't proved himself. Did they really deserve all that money? Because now someone like Jamar Chase should be getting more than that person justifiably. But Jamar Chase isn't the one to reset the market. It was this other guy that reset the market before Jamar.
I kind of want to talk about the Georgia Kentucky game, which was a very fun game to watch last week.
Yes.
Um, like very run heavy by Kentucky. I wasn't sure what to make of it when I saw that the score was close at halftime. Um, and like all the way through the end of the game, it was really close. Um, I ended up watching most of the fourth quarter. Ended up watching the fourth quarter, uh, mostly out of entry, and I know that that is one of your favorite teams, and it's
Yes.
close enough to Cincinnati that it makes sense to mention it on the podcast.
Yeah, Kentucky's defense is the sole reason that game was as tight as it was. The first half, they held Georgia to 65 total offensive yards. and that is the least in. I think the commentators that game said that was the lowest amount since like week 1 or 2, whenever it was of last year or the year before. It was a long stretch. Like Kentucky's defense held them to 65 total yards and no offensive touchdowns in the first half. Blew my mind. I know Kentucky has a solid defense, and I think what helps them is they've got 2 Georgia transfers from the national championship team from last year, and quarterback Brock Vandegrift and linebacker Josh, or he's a linebacker number 2. Jones is the last name. I can't remember his full name, but they both transferred from Georgia last year, and I think that gave him the edge. Like Vandegrift has said on numerous times talking to the commentators that he was the backup to Beck last year, and he did nothing but go against the defense that won the national championship every day at practice. So having a guy like that that transfers in and can give your offense kind of an edge a little bit on what the defense is going to look like or how they can line up, how they expect certain things. And then the linebacker can do the same for your defense and just help them understand like how you can get into Carson Beck's head, how you can get into the lineman's head, like all that stuff is so critical.
Yeah, the game came pretty close. I wasn't sure if Kentucky would have been able to come back, ex especially with such an unlucky play at the end where Georgia fumbled the ball for a first down, which is something I didn't expect to see or didn't realize it was a thing because I think in the NFL you can't advance it forward,
No, you can't.
but it was a funny play. Not for Kentucky fans, but it was a funny like play rule wise,
Yeah.
rather.
Yeah.
Um,
For everyone saying Carson Beck is obviously, maybe he's going to prove me wrong in this statement I'm about to make, but like if he goes against a defense that can play as hard as Kentucky did against them and and the team can replicate what Kentucky did, then he's going to struggle. Like realistically, teams that go against Georgia, all they have to do is look at the tape Kentucky gave or that Kentucky pretty much has now from the Georgia game. Just look at the game, see how the defense performed, what they did, and all you have to do is replicate that to the best of your abilities for what you have. And if you can keep Carson Beck the way Kentucky did from being able to do anything, I mean, he was 15 to 24, 160 yards with a 6.7 average on his passing. It's not that's not crazy. It's good for college, but it's not anything that blows me away. And I think if you can do that and do what Kentucky did, like Carson Beck can then be proven to be beaten easier than what a lot of teams think and a lot of fans think.
well, since Ohio is part of Big Ten country, I kind of want to like talk about a little bit about Oregon getting back on track. I know that this is going to be a team that Ohio State is going to be playing in a few weeks. They looked very well against their rivals of Oregon State. Um, the off the offensive line seemed a lot better. I think they played, I think maybe one sack. They definitely didn't allow very many sacks as they did the first two games. The running game was on point. Dylan Gabriel put on a show on the road, in the Civil War game. Um, I know that Ohio State's defense is going to be really, really good. I do wonder if the Oregon Ducks keep rolling, how they're going to be able to challenge Ohio State in a couple weeks. I know that they played very well today. Um, I do wonder I guess, how Michigan's going to end up being at the end of the year as well, because I know they played. a really tight game against USC today.
Yes. 27-24 was the score to be exact. And I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting Michigan to win. Um, I really honestly, when it comes to Michigan this year, like I don't expect them to do much. Like, because if we look at everything that's happened to them this offseason, like after last year, like it makes me question whether the coaches are actually capable of propelling them to wins or coaching them to wins, or if the coaches just had to cheat because they felt the need to. Like, uh, nothing about Michigan is screaming that like they're this amazing top 20 team. Like they're coming off of a year where it was proven that they cheated. They've got that black X on their resume now as an organization, as a school, as a collegiate organization. Like that is going to forever stain that program. So to me, it's like if you guys are playing this year, like I'm not expecting much because after last year, I don't know if your coaches are actually good or if it's just the fact that you guys are getting lucky or if your players are that good. Like I know I sound hypocritical or like someone that just hates Michigan, but it's the fact that I can't stand if your organization cheats and gets caught and has level 2 all the way across the board cheating. Like I have to question your organization or your team at that point. Like I can't I can't justify defending the program when it gets
Well,
blatantly called out.
I'm going to defend them a little bit, not fully. Um, they did cheat, obviously, but every team cheats, and it's pretty much just don't get caught in a way because I know that Michigan got I guess they pretty much got by TCU the previous year. Now you got to think, hey, it's kind of been like you kind of everyone's kind of eyeing that. It's like, well, did they cheat better than Michigan that year to get that win? And it's kind of it's a mixed bag. I do think that that cheating scandal is going to be remembered for a little bit, but I don't think it's gonna last all that long because as human beings, our attention spans isn't gonna like remember that in about 10 years. We're just gonna remember that they won the national championship.
Well, I mean,
Except for
it
maybe
depends
not
on how.
maybe not an Ohio State fan, but just as a college football fan, I'm not gonna remember that, you know, that they cheated. I'm just gonna remember that they beat Washington for the national championship.
I think it's all going to come down to how bad the death penalty is that the NCAA is going to give them. There's a couple ways they can go about it. They can give them a 10-year probation where they can't be in any college football playoff or anything like that, or they could give them the 5-year probation. They could go beyond 10 if they really want to set an example, but that's up to the NCAA. In all honesty, with all the level twos, I could see them doing a 10-year probation plus, and it's already been noted that they'll be stripped of the national championship and they're going to reverse the Ohio State games, and it doesn't do much, but it's one of those like they're reversing the Ohio State games to an Ohio State win from what I understand. So I mean, a lot of stuff with whatever happens after this year, because I believe the NCAA is waiting until the end of the year to dish everything out, because I think they're still doing all their investigating. Um, if they do a 10-year probationary period, there's going to be people that, like you said, in 10 years, it could be 6 years from now, someone's going to be like, well, why isn't Michigan in the college football playoff? They're ranked top 20. Why aren't they in? And then it's going to come and they're going to look and be like, oh, so they were caught in a cheating scandal. They cheated, whatever. Again, it'll be a while, but I think depending on what the NCAA does is how the cheating will be remembered.
Well, Quinn Ewers went down last week. Arch Manning stepped in, obviously led Texas to a win last week and this week, or presumably this week.
They may as well just
Um,
call it a dub. General Booty did not do a whole lot for ULM today.
I knew you wanted to fit that in. That's
Hey, it's General Booty versus Arch Manning. It's the matchup everyone wanted to see.
well, I mean, they're also playing UL Monroe, and they're currently winning 50-3, so they're
Yes.
obviously going to win. Um, I would say that's enough about college football from last week. I do expect um Quinn Ewers to get the job back when he comes back from injury. I don't think that's how Steve Sarkisian rolls by letting a player lose their job by injury. I don't think the Mannings want that either. I think that Arch Manning seems to be in good hands at UT, or not. I guess not UT. That's
Well,
Tennessee. That's
it is. You
Tex.
just got to be careful about who you mention it to.
Uh, he's not
Tennessee just
gonna.
was established
He's
before Texas.
yes. He's not leaving. He's not leaving the Longhorns.
Correct.
Until he's ready for the NFL,
All I gotta
presumably.
say is shout out Cooper Manning, man. We all know Eli and Peyton couldn't give us a quarterback in college that could run like that.
Oh man, those guys.
No
They could. They.
disrespect, Peyton and Eli, if you ever
I
see
don't.
this. No disrespect. It's just
No
you guys were known
disrespect,
for your
but
arms, not your legs.
no disrespect, but I'm pretty sure they run a 10-4-40.
Yeah. Love you both to death. Love you both to death. Eli, I hope you get into the Hall of Fame this year. I really do.
Um, I guess we could talk about the Reds a little bit.
Uh,
It's I
I think you
they're
and
they're
I and the
finally
whole Reds fan base know that they're not making the playoffs.
I could tell that by the attendance that I saw online that they're pretty much out of contention. When I checked earlier this week, I saw that they had a less than 0.01% chance, which was very hilarious to me. Um, but there was some good
ESPN, you
things that
gotta love
happened.
them.
But there was some good things that happened. They won the series against the Twins. They
Yes.
won the series against the Braves, and Ellie hit his first grand slam.
Many more to come. Many more to come. I feel it.
And he also became the first player to have 25 home runs and 60 stolen bases, which means he's really, really good at baseball. And I love that for the city of Cincinnati. Unfortunately, he was overshadowed by Shohei Ohtani, who is also amazing at baseball, joining the 50-50 club
I think
while
not
going,
joining. I think you mean creating the 50-50 club.
yeah, creating the 50-50 club while going 6 for 6, which is absolutely stupid.
He's not
Um,
human.
this is pretty much a side quest for Shohei Ohtani as he's obviously a pitcher as well. I think he's actually working to get back the pitch in the postseason because
Excuse me?
because he is a genetic freak, a specimen just like Ellie De La Cruz. And I can't imagine what happened in the lab to create these two non-human beings. There's no way. But at least we do have a human pitcher, by the name of Rhett Lauder,
Rhett
who's
Louder,
been
my guy.
who's been very, very stellar.
No runs allowed today. Four strikeouts, two walks, 1.4 ERA right now. Killing it.
The Reds lineup is looking very, very good for 2025. And I'm kind of
So
excited.
I want to ask you, since we're getting towards the end of the Reds season, what Or who are some of the people that the Reds should target? Positions that they should improve upon? Like what are you thinking? Because me
Off season.
personally, gotta bring some kind
Off
of starters into the picture
as
for this team.
it has to be the outfield. And I'm not worried about the starters. You got Rhett Lauder, you got Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and
Andrew
Andrew
Abbott
Abbott. And
and the first round pick.
and there's some other pitchers in the pipeline. I don't think that they're gonna be bad. I think they're gonna be pretty good pitching wise. It's more like, will the bats be awake when the pitching is good? It seems like to be the Cincinnati curse of, oh, the pitching's great, but the bats aren't working. Oh, the bats are working, but the pitching's horrible. And the fact that, the pitchers are pretty much always hurt. A lot of this team is just always hurt, which seems to be another Cincinnati curse.
So what would you do with McLean? Because he seems to be injury prone, at least. This is just hype. Like, from what we've seen, he seems to be rather fragile.
He's the starting second baseman, without doubt. Uh, we can put, I think, putting Johnson India in the outfield would be a very interesting proposition. Um, it's not like
Will
it's
Benson DH?
um if he finds his magic again, I think he struggled to be a everyday ball player. I think he's proven himself to be a more of a platoon player. Um, unfortunately, he's a lefty, just like Rick, just like Jake Fraley, aka Rick Fraley. Um, it's just really tough. The outfield was just bad this year. It was just bad all together. I I'm not sure what to think of Noel V. Marte this year. He's not an outfielder, but he just struggled.
So who
And
would be your three outfielders? Do you
TJ Friedel,
Okay, I was gonna say, do you have Friedel in the outfield still next year, or
he has to be there because he's the only center field.
gotcha?
I would have him and then Stuart Fairchild as his backup. Spencer Steer can be played anywhere since he's a utility man. Maybe starts playing a little bit of third base. I don't know where Jamer's gonna fit in. The infield's way too crowded.
And what about
Uh,
CES? Because we've got Ty France now.
Ty France, I don't expect him to be here next year.
You don't?
Uh, is he not a rental?
I don't think so. I think we got him on a contract from. I can't remember where we traded to get him from. Um, Let me see.
This is his last year of the contract, so he won't be back.
Gotcha.
He was on
I'd
a 1 year
be
deal with the Mariners. I think we got him because we got him off of waivers, but it wasn't that bad. Or I think we got him via trade. That might have been my fault.
I'd be disappointed if they didn't bring him back, but I also
It was a trade.
understand if they don't. He's brought so much to this team. I kind of hope they bring him back. You know, even if he's not going to be your everyday first baseman, he's there to kind of help CES. If
I
CES is
mean,
struggling, you have a first baseman to come in if you need it.
I don't think we need it because there's going to be more Reds coming up the pipeline, and they're going to need roster spots. It's going to be very crowded in the infield. We actually might see Jonathan India play first base, but we'll see. We'll see that about later. So, um, this was the podcast this week. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week.
Yes,
Adios.
next week.